What if the moment you escaped your destiny was the exact moment you stepped into another one? The church bells were ringing, not with celebration, but with the deafening reminder of the life Emma was about to enter unwillingly. The white dress felt more like chains than silk. Her father's proud face glowed from the front row, while the groom Daniel, a wealthy heir, stood with a practiced smile, like this marriage was a business deal rather than a union of hearts. Emma's hands trembled as she gripped her bouquet. Every step toward the altar felt like walking deeper into a cage she could never escape. Her heart screamed louder than the music, begging her to run. And then, with a surge of courage she never knew she had, Emma turned away. Gasps echoed through the church as she lifted her gown and bolted through the doors, her veil flying like broken wings behind her. The streets outside blurred as tears filled her eyes. She didn't know where she was going, only that anywhere was better than here. Her heels stumbled on the cobblestones until she collided with someone. Strong hands caught her before she fell. Emma looked up, and for the first time in her life, her world stilled. A stranger stood there, dark eyes full of curiosity and concern. He wasn't dressed like the men in her world of wealth. His jacket was worn, his stance unpolished yet strong. He looked at her not with expectation but with genuine surprise. "Are you okay?" he asked, steadying her. Sometimes the arms of a stranger feel safer than the home you've known your entire life. Emma's chest rose and fell as she tried to catch her breath, her wedding dress heavy and suffocating. The stranger still had his hands gently resting on her shoulders, steadying her as though he'd just caught a bird trying to fly away. You don't understand," Emma whispered, glancing behind her as though the world she had fled might come chasing through the streets at any second. "I can't go back." The man tilted his head, studying her. "Then don't." His answer startled her. Simple. No lectures, no questions about propriety, no judgment. Just two words that felt like freedom. He took off his jacket and draped it over her trembling arms, covering the laces of the gown that made her stand out. "I'm James," he finally said, voice calm, deep, and grounding. "And you are?" Emma hesitated. Should she even tell him? But something in his gaze, something unshakably steady, made her whisper, "Emma." James offered a half smile. "Well, Emma, it looks like you just escaped something big. Want me to help you disappear for a while?" Her mind screamed that he was a stranger, someone she shouldn't trust. But her heart, wild and desperate, whispered that he was her only safe place. Against all logic, she nodded. Within minutes, James led her away from the glaring streets, through narrow alleys that twisted like secrets. He didn't ask why she ran. He didn't pry into the story of a runaway bride. Instead, he carried the silence between them like it was something precious. At last, they reached a quiet corner cafe, nearly empty, where he sat her down with a steaming cup of coffee. Emma's trembling fingers wrapped around the mug, the warmth sinking into her frozen bones. For the first time, she allowed herself to exhale. She should have been terrified, but instead, she felt safe. James leaned back, eyes never leaving her. "You don't have to tell me everything," he said softly. "But if you stay, even for a moment, just know you're not alone." And Emma realized something shocking. She had never, not once, heard words like that before in her life. What begins as a chance escape sometimes becomes the beginning of a destiny you never imagined. Emma sat quietly in the corner of the cafe, her fingers tightening around the warm mug, as if it were her last lifeline. Outside, the world carried on, cars honking, people rushing, and yet here, time seemed to pause. James hadn't pressed her with questions, but his presence felt steady, like a wall against the chaos in her chest. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was low, almost breaking. I was supposed to marry him, but it wasn't love. It never was. It was about family, power, and expectations. They never asked me what I wanted. James didn't interrupt. He simply listened, his gaze soft but sharp enough to make her feel truly seen. Emma felt the sting of tears, not because of his pity, but because she realized how rare it was for someone to actually hear her words. I thought I could live with it, she continued, her lip trembling. But when I looked at him waiting at the altar, I realized I'd be sacrificing myself forever. So I ran. James nodded slowly. Sometimes running is the bravest thing you can do. His words sank deep into her heart. Everyone else would have called her reckless, selfish, ungrateful.
Oh, but
This stranger, the man she'd only just met, some strength in her choice. That alone felt like a miracle. Emma's eyes drifted toward the window. They'll come looking for me. They might, James agreed. But for now, you're safe. And if you want, I can make sure it stays that way. Emma's breath caught. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. A flicker of something unreadable passed over his face. Maybe I don't need to. Sometimes you just know when someone needs saving. And maybe I've been waiting for a reason to step out of my own shadows, too. His words carried weight, like he wasn't just a stranger, but a man with his own secrets, his own past running parallel to hers. Emma leaned closer, curiosity mingling with fear. Who are you really, James? She whispered. He gave her a half smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Let's just say, I'm not the kind of man you were raised to marry, but maybe I'm exactly the kind of man you were meant to meet tonight. And in that moment, Emma felt the impossible her heart, which had been drowning in despair, beat with the first spark of something new. Sometimes the heart recognizes safety before the mind dares to believe it. Emma stared at James, her thoughts spinning faster than her words could catch them. The cafe felt smaller now, as if the walls themselves leaned in to hear their conversation. For the first time in months, she felt both terrified and alive. Where will you go now? James asked gently, sipping his coffee like they had all the time in the world. Emma shook her head. I don't know. I didn't plan this. I just ran. Her voice cracked as she admitted the truth. I don't even have a bag. No money. Nothing. James studied her carefully, then leaned forward. Then let me help. You don't have to figure everything out tonight. Her instinct screamed not to trust so easily. And yet something about him, his calmness, his lack of judgment, made her feel safer than the home she had just fled. Why are you doing this? She asked again. His smile was faint, almost bittersweet. Maybe because I've been where you are. Maybe because I know what it feels like when the world decides your life for you. Emma blinked. You've run away before? He didn't answer directly. Instead, his eyes drifted toward the window, where the city lights glimmered like scattered stars. Let's just say, I know how heavy the chains of expectation can be, and I also know what freedom costs. Her chest tightened. He wasn't just offering kindness, he was offering understanding. For Emma, that was more valuable than any escape plan. The cafe door suddenly opened, and a cold gust swept in. Emma flinched, half expecting to see her S-men storm inside. But it was only a group of strangers laughing their way in from the street. She exhaled shakily, realizing how paranoid she had become. James noticed. He lowered his voice. If you want, I can take you somewhere safe. somewhere no one will think to look for you tonight." Emma hesitated. She should refuse. She barely knew him, and yet, hadn't her entire life been built on trusting the wrong people? Maybe it was time to take a risk on someone who made her heart feel steady for the first time in years. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll come with you." A shadow of relief flickered across James's face. He stood and held out. Sometimes the greatest escape isn't from a place, but from the version of yourself you thought you had to be. Emma followed James through the quiet streets, her heels clicking softly against the pavement. She had never felt so exposed. No veil, no carefully rehearsed smile, no perfect dress that marked her as someone's possession. For the first time, she was simply Emma, and James walked beside her as if that was enough. He led her to a small apartment above a bookstore, tucked away on a side street no one from her old world would ever wander. The walls smelled faintly of paper and ink, and a cat lifted its head lazily from the counter as they climbed the stairs. Inside, the place was modest, nothing like the grand home she was used to, yet it radiated warmth. Bookshelves lined the walls, and a lamp cast a golden glow that softened everything it touched. Emma's shoulders finally loosened. "You can stay here as long as you need," James said, pouring her a glass of water. "No one will find you." Emma took it, her fingers brushing his. That brief contact sent a spark through her, a reminder that this wasn't just safety she was feeling. It was something deeper. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked, her voice low. James studied her for a long moment. "Because I see someone who deserves a chance to choose her own life. And maybe because I know what it is like to want someone to believe in you when no one else does." Her throat tightened. For years, she had been surrounded by people who saw her only as a symbol of wealth, of family honor, of power. Yet here was a man who saw her, not her last name or her dowry, just her. Silence settled between them, heavy but comforting. Emma placed the glass down and took a step closer to him. "What if I don't know who I am without all of it?" Some stories don't end at the escape. They begin there. Weeks passed since Emma had fled the altar, and every day felt like a stolen gift. The whispers of scandal still roamed the city. Her family's outrage echoed in the press. But none of it touched the quiet sanctuary she had found with James. She had traded diamond halls for the smell of old books, the roar of chandeliers for the hush of rain tapping against a small apartment window. And strangely, it wasn't a loss, it was freedom. She woke each morning not as someone's bride, not as someone's daughter to be bartered, but as herself. James became her anchor. Not because he promised her the world, but because he never asked her to be anything but Emma. He didn't shield her from the truth. He reminded her that strength wasn't in perfection, but in choosing to stand even when the world tried to knock you down.